Hey traders, Raghee here, and in this free recap video we're going to talk about some of these unscheduled events that have the ability to affect the market and how we should view these, how I view these, and what kind of trades oftentimes can they trigger. Now, there's a big difference between trading a soundbite, trading a headline, trading data or anything else versus using the volatility. We're going to be talking about the latter, using the volatility. All right, so let's talk about the first thing that happened today, and that was the news in LGND, Legend. And Citron Research came out, and they have the ability to move a market, gang. They've made significant calls in Valiant. They've made significant calls in Netflix. Most recently in Facebook, and here was his Legend call. That no sooner hit the airwaves, within less than 30 seconds, there was a dramatic sell-off. Now, what do when something like that hits a market that you're in? Number one, they're not making this call for $35 because they're not already in the market. There's a really good chance that they're already positioned from somewhere in here, or heck, somewhere up in here. And they're making this call to basically expedite the move down to 35, if it even gets there, right? But what do they care if they're short from, say, 165 or 145, right? They just basically assured the move through 125 and, quite frankly, through 115. Now, one of the first comments, and I love this comment because this tells me that the process that we teach, the process that I teach and use in the room is repeatable, and it's something that everyone can pick up. The first comment, and I can't remember who said it because I would give you so much props, was, why on earth would anybody be long LGND in the first place? Kudos for that comment, and if you're listening to me right now, excellent. You made my day by saying that. And the reason I say that is, look at the sea of red grab candles. Look at the direction of the wave. Look at the threshold in the 200 EMA that we have crossed. On what basis would anybody be bottom picking in a name like this rather than shorting the bounces? That's pretty easy, and for anybody who's in our room, we know this is what we look for. So this move was really just follow through. Thank you, Citron, right? That's the mentality. You know, and let's think about something that's happened recently. Jeff Bezos divorce. You know, look, just because he's a billionaire and people can have whatever opinion about them they want, he's a human being going through a divorce. And however you want to look at it, it's a personal thing. Of course, it does have an impact on the stock because of what's happening. But really, any of that is really headline chasing noise, right? You don't want to be sheeple. You want to focus on trend, market trend. You want to focus on price action and the bias that you might have in Amazon. So this news about the divorce really, I think, by and large, for a lot of traders, has become a buyable event. That was the news, as if Amazon's going to now crumble because the guy's getting divorced. Who knows how the assets are going to be split. But at the end of the day, this is a market that's number one in chop, and it's also a market that's within the midst of a overall move higher in the broader equities because we feel that the Powell put, the FOMC put is in, right? And so why not take advantage of moves like that, the volatility of that news, of that soundbite, of that unscheduled event, take advantage and get long, right? So that's what I'm talking about. Now, how about at the end of the day today? I'm using three very different examples so you see it's not about a single market or a single type of event. Here comes another piece of news, right? Unscheduled. And this was about Huawei. And supposedly we're in the advanced stages of pursuing a criminal case. U.S. prosecutors are looking at the theft of trade secrets. You know, the IP theft is something that's at the top of the list with the whole U.S.-China trade negotiations. So something like this really hits at the heart of one of the fears that bulls might have, which is that the U.S.-China trade negotiations may not be going as well as bulls would hope, as maybe as politicians suggest that they are. But the bottom line is this erodes confidence in the progress of those talks. And in this case, it seems that if Huawei has allegedly stolen trade secrets from, in this case, T-Mobile, apparently there are expectations that there's going to be follow-up, and that this is in the advanced stages of the criminal case. Do you think this is going to help the trade war? Not one bit. There's two narratives that are driving the markets higher right now. One is the Powell put, the Powell high tide. You know, the overall market's rallying on the optimism of a Powell pause, and two, that the trade war or the trade talks are going well. This would hit at the heart of that. Now, the market's been willing to overlook a lot of negative news, right? The problem with news bits like this is they create volatility. If the volatility sends the market higher on something like this and you have an overall downtrend, look for opportunities to short. If the volatility hits, right, and there's an overall uptrend and you're looking for a support level to buy, look for that kind of setup. I'm not saying always fade news, but these types of news pieces usually can be successfully faded as long as you're looking at market structure and exhaustion ranges. In other words, use the volatility to set up a trade. That trade should be valid regardless of the news. The news is not the setup. The news is the volatility that triggers the setup. And I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more of this throughout the year. Today alone, you know, we had two. You know, there's a lot of this kind of thing going on. So I wanted to make a point of you know, one, I usually recommend don't trade in the direction of the momentum that news is firing off in. In fact, look for the setup where that volatility is closing the distance to. Buys in Amazon, shorts in LGND, buys, for example, in longer term, broader index futures when that kind of news hits, right? So think about that. Or, of course, sometimes the best position of all, stay flat. Don't engage the noise at all. That's always a great alternative. You know, and obviously so much of what I'm talking about here is aggressive. So keep that in mind too. But this is something we're going to see again and again and again. So you might as well have a game plan for it. I'll see you in the next update.